Mexico was founded in September 27, 1821. Unfortunately, Mexico hasn't always been governed by the best of people prior to Andres and Claudia. 3. That is Mexico's life path number. Even though the number 9 is not their life path number, they have that 9 energy. Now, the interesting thing about the number 9 is you get the energy from not only yourself, but from all the numbers prior to that. The good that comes from that is we have now Claudia, and her numerology really aligns with Mexico's numerology. She's also a number 3.
Moon Girl, Mistress of the Paranormal. Your name is Sara, so I'll let you introduce yourself, and then we can get into very interesting topics about the country of Mexico and Presidenta Scheinbaum and their numerology and what that says about her leadership and the future of Mexico as a country, right?
Thank you so much. My name is Sarah Garcia, known as a Moon Girl, Mistress of the Paranormal.
The name Moon Girl, Mistress of the Paranormal, where did that come from?
Well, I absolutely love the moon and astrology, and my rising sign happens to be Cancer with rules of the moon. And as far as a mistress of the paranormal, because I am also a paranormal investigator, and I'm so obsessed and love Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. So it's like an homage to her. I'm obsessed. In my mind, I'm like the Mexican chunky Elvira. Let me, okay? Let me. So most girls wanted to grow up to be Miss America. I wanted to be, Elvira with amazing jugs just like her when I grew up.
That's a vibe. I love it. I love it.
I love her.
It's cool because it seems like just from your personality and from speaking with you a couple times so far, you do kind of exude that energy where you're kind of pulling from her influence, but giving your own spark and your own flair to it, right? Especially because you
Yeah.
have a lot of so many experiences in the paranormal. You being a psychic medium yourself, a paranormal investigator, and someone who understands, constantly learns, and applies things like Chinese astrology, the zodiac signs, everything that goes along with those. And forgive me if I say things that maybe might not make sense in the whole world of spirituality. I'm learning, and I think it's just fascinating. And the world is getting very weird. So as the
Yeah.
world gets weird, and as we realize that that might be our new normal, having you explain what you do and also why it's important could help a lot of people. And that's really the ultimate goal of this podcast, to bring people who may be seen as non-traditional to give wisdom so that we all can kind of figure out how we're going to get through this weirdness, right?
Well, I guess I'll do a little introduction. I been connecting with spirits since I was a very young child. So since I can remember, I'd had a lot of sleep paralysis, and I was, very scared of it. I would tell my mother, and they were Catholic, maybe not super practicing, until their convenience, right? But they'd be like, it's a dream, but there's only so many dreams, man. You know what I'm saying? So I was really scared. So they'd be like, go to your room, and sometimes it would get so bad where I would be crying in my bed as a young child because I knew something was coming that night. So I got older and I understood that, hey, it's real. I am seeing spirits. I am communicating with the other side. And I always tell this story. One day, I was in school, so this is daytime, and my mother and grandmother attempted to go put clean laundry in my room, and this big, dark, and they said demonic shadow lunged at them during the day. And the clothes went everywhere. After that, they never questioned me again. So that's how it all started, with that at least. But like I said, I've always felt things, I've always seen things. But when I turned 12, it was like a light switch. I was hit with all these memories. Um, and I took on really easily, like tarot cards and stuff like that. So one of my dear friends I mean, as best as we could, because we are like little kids, and this was a long time ago. It was hard to access those things as kids. We'd make our own little tarot cards out of paper and our little Ouija boards out of little boards, and paint them and do our own little paranormal investigation as best we could as 12-year-olds. And it really took off from there. Again, I had no prior knowledge of the astrology or all the other divinations I do, Chinese face reading, ruins, tea leaf, coffee grinds, dream interpretation, toothpick readings, bone readings, shell readings. I mean, it was like remembering. So I really believe in like star seeds and those type of things because, again, I had no prior knowledge to this, and that's how it all began.
This is kind of gonna be a good segue into some questions that I have. Everyone's asking, when are you gonna bring Moon Girl on? And what
Uh,
is numerology? I didn't know that countries could have numerology associated with them. And in this case, we're talking about Mexico and Claudia Scheinbaum. So this episode is gonna go into that specific topic, and then from there we'll see where the conversation goes. But the first question I have for you is, what's it like to be an entrepreneur blending spiritual practices with your business, podcast slash videos?
I mean, this is all I've known, really. So to me, it's very normal. So, I mean, I've done podcasting before, or of course, I have my clients who either want some sort of reading or mediumship, or I get booked to go do events, to go, ghost hunting and put an event there. And we take a group of people and we do like a seance together or go ghost hunting together. And people have equipment. I come in as a medium, or I use equipment sometimes. So, I mean, again, this is very normal to me. Um, I'm already been doing this for about 3 decades. So it's an everyday thing for me. I love it.
It shows. It shows, like, just from your energy, it shows that you're passionate about it because you live it every day. What have you noticed about your upbringing? You mentioned that, yeah, you grew up, your family was Catholic. I'm Catholic and my family are Catholic. So there's a lot of things that you said that remind me of my childhood. Have you noticed that your upbringing has either hindered or empowered what you do right now?
Well, I love other religions and cultures, so I like to blend things together. And what doesn't resonate with me, I don't take, and what does, I do. So, for instance, I mean, I'm not per se religious, I'm more spiritual, but I remember something I really loved was hearing about saints from my grandmother. My grandma was from Victoria, Mexico. She would tell me about, stories of saints and all that other the Mexican folklore and all that stuff, which I loved. And something that people don't understand because they kind of want to shame like the occult or spiritual practices, but there's a lot of parallels to religion and spirituality. Okay, like for instance, a lot of Mexicanos or Latinos, they like to put a rosary on their little mirror, the car for protection. I'm sorry. And some of us, we put like a little chain with crystals for protection or a deity's picture or something. Do you see? Like there's still parallels there. Birthdays, they light candles, they blow them to make a wish. We also light candles and dress them to try to manifest things. Again, what you choose to do with that, that's on you, whether it's something that's nice or not nice. But again, it's all connected and there's so many parallels. So I would love for people to be more open minded about it and not just shame, things that they don't quite understand.
That kind of leads into another question I have from one of our audience members. This one is specifically dealing with Mexico and how numerology goes into it. Because if we can understand how numerology goes into the country of Mexico, then that may better inform kind of like the trajectory of the country, but also who we are as people and who Mexicans are in Mexico, and also why it even exists, right? What does the country's birth chart say about its future? Can you go
Well,
into a little bit more about what even a birth chart is and then how Mexico's birth chart can be interpreted?
well, first of all, I just want to say I love Mexico. Okay, so mucho amor a mi gente de Mexico. So yeah, I wanted to do a numerology reading and a Chinese zodiac reading on Mexico and how it relates to their current president, Claudia. So I looked to see, the year was founded. Now the thing is with numerology, when you're born, you are imprinted with these numbers, okay, and every number has a specific energy. Now, with every number, there's the pros and the cons. If you are somebody who's operating on a high level, in other words, you're not, a horrible person or whatever, or doing really questionable things, you get that you're vibrating at that level. If you're someone who's operating at a low level, you're going to get the negative traits of that number. That being said, uh, Mexico was founded in September 27, 1821. So September is a 9. 27, we add the 2 with the 7, which equals a 9. So that's two nines. And then 1821, so 1 plus 8 plus 2 plus 1 is 12, which breaks down to a 3. Okay, so that is Mexico's life path number. But I want to get into, even though the number 9 is not their life path number, they have that 9 energy. Now, the interesting thing about the number 9 is if you add all the numbers together from 1 to 9, you get 45. That breaks down to the 9. So you see, like, you get all the energy from, with the 9, you get the energy from not only yourself, but from all the numbers prior to that. So again, there's good traits and bad traits. So you won't just get your good traits, you'll get the good traits of the other numbers. Okay. And if you're operating on a low level, you'll get all the bad traits of your number and their number. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, I mean, unfortunately, Mexico hasn't always been governed by the best of people prior to Andres and Claudia. So they were taking on the negative traits of number nines. So number nines, again, can be, if they're operating at a high level, they can have all the wisdom and knowledge of the other numbers. Okay, and their own too. And most of them are very creative and artistic. A lot of musicians happen to have be life path number 9 or have the 9 energy in there. Okay, but if they're operating at a low level, they can potentially be very dangerous. And if you're put in a position of power, you can even become like a dictator or, those type of things. So again, unfortunately, Mexico didn't have the best people governing it. So we were operating at that low level with number 9. Okay. And then as far as number 3, well, it is the life path number, but the number 3 is in there too for the year. That's all about communication. They are the networkers. Okay. So there's so many good traits about the number 3. However, like I said earlier, there's the pros and the cons if you are vibrating at a low level. So with the number 3, some of the not so good traits would be if you are operating at a low level or you are living or around a place that has a number 3 energy or it's a life path number 3, there could be a lot of corruption or criminal activity. So unfortunately, there's been that in Mexico for a long time. The good that comes from that is we have now Claudia, and her numerology really aligns with Mexico's numerology. She's also a number 3, but let me move on to hers really quick. And by the way, we are in a 9-year cycle, and number 9s are all about endings or transformations. So there has to be some sort of transformation in the way Mexico is governed so we can start something new. Because 9 technically isn't completion. It's like we're at the almost completion point till we get to the 10, which will be a 1 when we break that down. And that's, in order for us to start something new, we have to break down whatever doesn't work anymore so we could build on a more solid foundation. So Claudia's numerology, she was born on the 6th. I'm sorry, on June, which turns to a 6, the 24. So 2 plus 4 is 6. 1962. So 1 plus 9 plus 6. I'm sorry, 1 plus 9 plus 6 plus 2 turns into a 9. So we already kind of went through the 9, so I don't really need to talk about that. But with the 9, when you are operating at a high level, which I believe she is, they are the nurturers, the caregivers of who they consider family, who they love, a lot of loyalty. They're very hardworking people. When they're operating at a low level, sometimes they could not put themselves first to their detriment, so those type of things or can be very critical to of themselves or to others. But again, I feel like she's vibrating at a very high level. So all that together, her numerology life path number is a 3. So I do feel that there will be a lot of networking with her. So she's going to be networking with a lot of other places. And she's really a really excellent speaker. She's very eloquent, and she stands on business. I think she's really funny because number 3s are also known to be funny. They're the comedians of the numerology. So you will see a lot of comedians who have life path number 3 or have that energy on them. And as you notice, her clapbacks to Donald Trump are quite hilarious. So, she's very funny. I do see a lot of good things coming for Mexico, especially because we are in the year of the snake. And Mexico was, now we're going to move on to Chinese astrology. Mexico was founded in the year of the snake, and we are in the year of the snake right now. That's the enemy of the pig. So for those who are pigs, who are born in the pig year, this would not be the year to do something questionable, okay? Or invest or get married or buy property or have children. Just on a side note, guys. But another really interesting thing about this is Claudia is a tiger, which is the enemy of the monkey. And USA is founded on a monkey nation. So there's that pushback.
When you mention the clapbacks that she does to specifically Donald Trump, um, first of all, I wish I had a president like that. Aside from that, many political scientists, I can't remember the names of the two that I recently heard. They were saying that right now Mexico is in a position that South Korea was in the 80s. And from the 80s to now, South Korea has just skyrocketed in human development, in quality of life, and technology. And we're seeing that under AMLO and President Sheinbaum's leadership. We're seeing more kind of self-sufficiency. Mexico is
Yeah.
building their own electric vehicle. They're pumping out engineers probably more than any other country on the planet, and it's slowly rising. And it's interesting you say that um, that we have leadership in Mexico right now that is kind of converging and butting heads a little bit with leadership in the United States, as we're seeing a lot of chaos in this country, as opposed to some chaos, but kind of rising in Mexico. And I wanted to ask, what is Mexico's place in the world, in your opinion? This you could tie in spirituality if you want, but just from your own understanding, where do you think Mexico is on the world stage, considering Presidenta Sheinbaum was invited to the G7 recently and she spoke with world leaders, just like you were saying, a lot of networking. If someone's invited to the G7, it really seems like they're propping up Presidenta Sheinbaum and Mexico as a potential alternative to the United States after all the chaos that's going on under Trump. So, what's your understanding of Mexico's place in the world right now?
Well, I just want to say one of my predictions, because I do a yearly prediction, was that Mexico was going to do very, very well. This is going to be the turning point for Mexico this year because, again, they're founded on a snake year and we are in the snake year right now. So you do very good when you are in your energy. Okay. And this happens, what, every 12 years. So when you are in your energy, that's the time to get on the ball, and that's when you invest. That's when you do this or that you want to do. If you want to get married, have children, whatever. But I know with everything that's happening with ICE and everything, it looks bad. But I want Mexico and Mexico's people to know that those are just growing pains. That's it, it's horrible what's happening, but view them as growing pains because Mexico is definitely going to be a whole lot more self-sufficient. Okay. Again, her energy, Mexico's energy is really aligned. And again, threes are amazing at networking, and they're like the middleman. Okay, so they know a lot of people. There's going to be a lot of people who want to go and help Mexico and collaborate with Mexico. So, like you said, with the cars and stuff, they are going to have so much, they're going to build themselves up where they're not going to have like outsources. So many people, they leave Mexico to come over here. It's dangerous, and to make a better life for themselves, again, because maybe the people who governed it before, they didn't give them the opportunities. But Mexico is going to make their own opportunities. This is just the beginning, so they won't have to outsource anymore. And I'm really excited for Mexico, because I know they're going to be one of really highly regarded places.
I think I agree with you. I mentioned before that one side of my family is from Michoacan. The other side are from Guanajuato. They, as well as other family members and other friends I have in Mexico in different parts, they've commented before that when they come to the US, they don't necessarily feel safe. Not because of who they are, but because of the condition of our cities, the way that we're building our society. They just kind of feel that when they come here, they were expecting something and then it's not what they expected. And that's not a
Mhm.
drag on the United States
Yeah,
necessarily, but it's kind of highlighting what you're saying, that there's a lot of potential when it comes to Mexico, and the numerology can help us kind of sift through that and understand a little bit about why that's the case and what the path is, not just the life path, but just generally the path of the country as a whole. And I wanted to get into one of the questions that our viewers of the podcast wanted to ask you, because again, many people are starting to ask about these things, and I don't know if there's a worldwide spiritual awakening going on right now because things are so chaotic, but these topics like UFOs and aliens, spirituality, past lives, numerology, psychic mediumship, these are all becoming kind of household conversations and things that are not taboo anymore. And
yeah,
as the world gets weirder and weirder and weirder, these things are starting to help us realize that maybe this was always meant to be normal. We all are kind of just one. We're all kind of coming from the same source, however you want to call that. So that must mean that there's some stuff in the background that we're not very aware of all the time. So one of the
yeah.
questions I have from one of our viewers is, can numerology help us understand the ties, friendship, and tension between the USA and Mexico?
Yes, how I do this is I usually look for the numerology of that and the Chinese. I like using both of them, going back and forth. But it's a number four. I forgot what day it was. It was on a four. Four is all about law and order. Again, if you're vibrating at a high level. And the number three is enemies with the number four, because four is also the number of the criminal. You know what I mean? If you're vibrating at a low level. And four is the number of, the police, the police, and, law and order, and a lot of people who go into the military or become cops, or, lawyers or whatever, have a number four life path there, or there's four energy somehow. So they really, they bump heads. That's the name of the game. They bump heads. And another reason why Donald Trump did well here is because, his birthday's on the 4th as well. So when you're in your own energy, you thrive. But again, with the counts that happened last year on him, it's because last year we were in the dragon year, which is the enemy of a dog, and he's a dog. You could still thrive and do things that, like he won the election, right? But there will be repercussions because of that. You see what I'm saying? Now there's all this conflict going on. So usually when you are in your enemy year, you should lay low, don't do anything that's questionable, those type of things, whatever. It's not all completely, fail everything. You can't have wins like he did, but those wins will have repercussions.
It's interesting because when you clarify something like this, it just brings up a thousand more questions that I have.
I told you, rabbit hole after like another rabbit hole that leads to like 1,000 other rabbit holes.
And that shows how connected all these different ways to understand spirituality are, right? Like you have the Chinese zodiac and you can stick with that one, it seems like, but you could also do Western astrology. You could also do tea leaves. I feel like it's just a matter of what resonates more with someone and how you can combine all of them and take what works and take what doesn't work from each one. Do you find that you like to kind of, you mentioned this a little bit before, but do you find that you like to take a lot from different types of readings, different types of techniques and skills, and then kind of put it all together, or do you kind of stick to one more than the other?
Oh no, I practice a plethora of different divinations, and I love clarifying them. So say I'm doing a bone reading, if I want to clarify it with like a shell reading, which I do, or if I want to clarify it with a tarot card, or if I'm doing a tea leaf reading, I want to clarify that with a tarot. It's because it's like putting puzzles together. You will get more detailed. And I think it's just so amazing how everything's just so connected, and it's like a movie. Really, you're getting like little glimpses, but then when you do all these things, you get the full picture, and you're able to kind of see what's on the horizon as well.
Let's try doing some numerology readings. I don't know how you would say it on me, on my self, on my birth chart, life path stuff.
Okay, so you are born, if can I say?
Sure.
Okay. You're born in August, which is an 8. Okay. So again, even though the 8 is not your life path number, it still has that 8 energy. Now, 8 is the number of money and finances. Okay. But remember, with every pro, there's a bloody con, those pesky terms and conditions, right? So 8 is a very karmic number. So you can't get away with questionable behavior as easily as other people because it's going to come back and bite you in the ass faster than other people. It's the infinity symbol. What comes around goes around, baby. So if you do something that's well, like two people, they do something that's bad, maybe they get karma later down the road, but you're gonna like see it as soon as you turn around. But again, the number 8 is the number of money. So I encourage people who have businesses to sell things that end with an 8. You know what I mean? So 8, or what is it, 350, whatever it is, anything that's like 26, 27, 28, yeah, 20s, whatever it is, but it has that 8 energy in it. Okay. um and then you are 25, which is 2 plus 5 equals 7. That's the number of the genius. So again, even though that's not your life path number, you still have that 7 energy. By the way, that's my life path number.
I could see it. I could obviously see it, and it takes one to know one, right?
Right, 2 snaps. um, but again, pros and cons, right? So the number of the genius, this is somebody who um, loves knowledge. They like thrive on it. They're the smartest ones with the numerology number, well, except for 33, because that's a master number. So 11 is the master number, so is 22, and so is 33. So you don't break those down. But anyways, uh with 7, they tend to be loners, or if they're not loners, they need a lot of space. And that's something that people have a hard time comprehending. I have friends like, oh, you want to go out? And I mean, I do, but I don't. You know what I mean? I love you, but I just want to be left the heck alone. Or some friends like they want to call me, and I'm like, look, I told them I was gonna, lay down. To me, that doesn't mean I'm gonna go to sleep. It just means like my social battery, yeah, it's out. Talk to me tomorrow, okay? So they tend to be loners. They also tend to feel like very misunderstood, okay? Or just out of place. Some people may even feel like the black sheep of the family. Again, depending whether it's if it's that's just your energy, or that's your life path number. And then we have 1994. So that breaks down to a 23, which is a 5. Okay. Now, what 5 is the number of the good looks people. So you are a handsome man. So a lot of number 5s with their life path number 5s, they tend to be the better looking ones. Or if they're born on 5, so like whatever adds up to a 5, but the good things about this, they will travel a lot. So throughout your life, you may do a lot of traveling. Now, some of the like not so good things, they can be, not saying you are, but some people can be If they're vibrating at low level, kind of promiscuous.
Why would you say that? Like, you put me in such an uncomfortable situation. Like, you know I'm not happy. You know I'm trying.
Those kind of things. Again, no judgment here. Yes, your family's watching this. Shame, shame. Esteban, no.
They
No,
don't know
but
what
that
hurt them.
right, exactly. We're just gonna edit this part out, right? But altogether, your life path number is an 11, which is a great number. It's a master number. They're very charismatic. You're very charming. They have a good mouthpiece. Again, but some of the things that are not the best with that, it's a very emotional number. So if you're vibrating at a low level, this can also lead to questionable things because, when we are in our fields, some people turn to substance abuse or other low vibrating things. Okay. Or some people may suffer from depression or those type of things, but it's still a great number. And if you notice, a lot of tragedies happen on a 11th number. So you should never fly a plane, travel, go on a plane, like on the 11 or anything that adds to 11, like a 29, right? 20, whatever it is, day it is, because there a possibility of, you know, something happening there.
Yeah, something came to mind was September 11th
And
happening
that
or
nine,
happened then.
remember, there's that nine there too.
Oh, yeah.
Completions, endings, something breaking down. And that was a huge turning point for us. I mean,
Have you
so
gone through history and to historical events or things that make sense numerologically?
I've done some digging and some things I'm like, oh my freaking God, that freaking makes sense. Why this or that happened that day. So I try to be careful, but again, I don't want to fear monger anybody. There's things that are out of our control, that we can't. Like I mentioned earlier, there's certain vehicles you shouldn't drive because you can have. It could be something as simple as car trouble, or accidents, or even passing away in them. But again, say you don't have all this money to get a car that's founded in your year. You find one that maybe not found in your year, but it's a cheaper car and maybe you just really need it. I mean, you do the best you can, but be very careful and mindful of that. Also, where you live, again, find a place that's cheaper and you don't have that much means, but it's like the numbers don't add up. There could be issues there. And then if you are someone who's married or coupled, whatever, you look at their numerology or their astrology chart, to see if they're not in like a negative, found in a negative place, or their numbers don't match up. And then if you have children, if you have it goes on and on. I mean, you could really go like kind of crazy. I try not to, but I mean, like I told you, it just leads to so many rabbit holes. It could really consume you.
We were talking about Mexico and the
Uh-huh.
numerology of Mexico and all that stuff. And if that can be done with a country and a lead and a person, obviously like Claudia Scheinbaum, that can obviously be done with cities. And like you were mentioning, is it best to live in a specific city or not based on someone's or my birth chart, my data, and then the birth chart and numerology of a city specifically. And I bring that up because, I've always loved.
Alaska for you. Alaska,
Really?
California. Yeah, because it has your energy was founded in your year.
California or Alaska, those two are
Yeah,
the.
well, I mean, there's others. You have to really look. But I mean, but those that come to mind. And of course, if you are living in like your enemy state, um, it's like an uphill battle. You know what I mean? Like maybe you don't do as well. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna something horrible is gonna happen to you. I mean, worst case scenario, yes. Like if say you were struggling with your health, heck no, I would not move to my enemy state or something, because your health can decline, or you can possibly la pelona comes for you. You know what I'm saying? So if you're already struggling with your relationship with someone, I wouldn't move to your together with that person to that enemy place, state, or whatever, because the chances are this is going to end in separation, divorce, or whatever. I sure as heck would never have a child in my enemy sign. Oh my God, that is worse than marrying somebody who is your enemy sign, which, by the way, that's the person you're going to be most attracted to, you know? So it's kind of like the universe is like testing you, like, yeah, you know, you're going to fall for this trap or no? Uh, and there's like a lot of karma in there too. But at least with a spouse, there's always divorce, you know. But with your child, again, it doesn't necessarily mean something horrible, but they could be very problematic, or you know, they can get in trouble, or you don't have the best relationship with your child.
So what could someone do? What could a parent do whenever they do have a child that's born in an enemy year, or their birth chart data, or readings, or however you say it, if it's misaligned with the parent, like what's the solution there?
Well, I mean, if you're wanting to have a child, if you're able to plan it out, that's always best. But there's sometimes happy surprises that you have no control over. You know what I'm saying? So what are you gonna do? You know, um, so it would take a lot for you to, well, you need to understand that there's going to be headbutting. So you as a parent, you know, you're older than you're a parent, you're going to have to find that common ground. You know what I'm saying? But also for the parents out there, if your child is in their enemy year, which is coming up next year for a lot of kids, usually when you're like 17, 18, it turns into the enemy year. That's the year when you have to be very careful, especially with your health. Okay. So for kids who are maybe in sports or something, I mean, be careful, or maybe skip it if they're in their enemy year. So my son, he's a rat. Next year it's the year of the horse. So horses and their friends, that's the time to thrive. But for rats, next year, you know, it's your enemy sign. It's your, I'm sorry, your enemy year. So don't do anything questionable that can get you in trouble, and be very careful with your health.
Okay.
Also, Bitcoin, no Bitcoin, no what is it called? Crypto next year, because 2008, that's a rat uh, energy, and that's not gonna do well next year. So if you are invested in any of that stuff, not next year.
Wow.
Once we enter to that rat year.
There's so much that goes into it. There's so much precision that comes with understanding like the fine details about not just dates, birth dates, all that stuff, but the specifics about a location, the specifics about how different types of spirituality and techniques and perspectives, astronomy, all that stuff, how that all ties in together and can really give you like a book on just one
Yeah.
specific thing or person. Do you feel like you're led intuitively to use specific perspectives or techniques, or are there ones that you just like more?
I mean, I like all of them for different reasons. And this is like I told you, when I do my yearly predictions, or I'm going to predict something, I usually do a combination of what I feel as a psychic medium, um, and what the, you know, Western astrology is telling me, and what Eastern astrology is telling me, and what numerology is telling me. Now, Western astrology is the least accurate of all of these things. Okay, I would go with, you know, Chinese Vietnamese astrology, but more Chinese. But numerology is going to precede all that, because that's your energy that you were born with. So, you know, you have to go by what your energy is. I kind of want to go back with the number 4 that we talked about earlier. And this is for people, again, I'm not condoning questionable behavior or anything like that. But if you are somebody who dabbles in questionable behavior, you know, the 4th, that's when there's a lot of cops out there. So I would not do that. Okay, anything that goes 4. So 13, 31. So you could see a lot of like police out there getting caught with, you know, things. A lot of tickets are handed out that time and stuff like that. So again, with the 3 that we had with Mexico, and then the 4 here, you see how that kind of, you know, makes sense now.
That does it's a little eerie about how much sense it makes, because I go back to this idea that the universe is just all probability, frequency, it's all pattern at the end of the day. And if we have techniques like different types, like numerology, different types of astrology, anything that gives us intuitive insight, then why shouldn't we use them? Why shouldn't we use them to enhance our understanding in our daily lives? Do you think that would be good if people are more aware of all this?
Absolutely. You can avoid so much hardship collectively if we learned some of these things, or started practicing some of these things. Like, for instance, I made a video, I think it was yesterday or the day before, I don't remember, um, how Uranus is going into Gemini. Okay, history repeats itself. Last time that happened, we had American Revolution, we had a Civil War, we had World War II. We're technically already having a civil war with everything that happened in California, immigration, and all that stuff. You know, what's Look what's everything that's happening with Iran and Israel and us. This is potentially things that may happen. WW3. But you see how this has already taken place. History, repeats itself. The past three times Uranus was in Gemini, we had these events. We could learn from that and be like, look, we were involved somehow, either directly or indirectly.
Okay, okay. I'm absorbing all this and I'm taking it all in because it seems like a lot, and it makes sense at the same time. A lot of it makes intuitive sense, and if you look back in history, it's almost like we're going through cycles, and if we don't learn it one time, the next time that planet is in that position, it's like our next opportunity to learn those lessons, and if we don't, it's going to happen again until we finally get past that. It's almost like a karmic lesson that's not going to stop until we finally figured it out. And it seems like in the case of Mexico, it seems like this time around, and in this specific year, that Mexico is kind of learning some of its lessons and it's changing and it's
Yeah,
finally addressing those karmic,
yeah,
long-standing things. Is that am I right in that?
yeah. And I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. The astrology, Chinese astrology, speaks for itself. So yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Okay. Well,
See how it all like gets together. It all like entangles together.
that's so interesting. There's so much to learn, and where can people learn more about you and what you do? Do you want to just name drop some of your channels or social media or what you do for a business? I just want to give you an opportunity to do that.
Yes, you can find me on Instagram, Moon Girl Mistress of the Paranormal. So I kind of like upload some of my astrology or paranormal events I do, or investigations. I also have Moon Girl Paranormal. You can find me also on Facebook like page. That's Moon Girl Mistress of the Paranormal. TikTok, if when they don't take it off, that's Moon Girl Paranormal as well. Moon Girl Mistress of Paranormal, and then YouTube, Moon Girl Paranormal. Even the Clapper, that's Moon Girl Paranormal, and yeah, so y'all can find me there. And if y'all want to book a reading of any of the things I do, from numerology to dream interpretation, um, Chinese astrology, face readings, ruins, tea leaf, toothpick. I mean, a lot of other things. You could find me, of course, tarot, very elementary. You can book me there, or if you want a like mediumship reading, again, you could find me there. Or if you want to book me for a paranormal event, you can book me there too.
I'll make sure to link all of that in the description here. That'd be awesome. I know that you were highly requested when I mentioned that we were going to bring you on this podcast, and there was a lot of
Oh,
excitement about this specifically. And I know that a lot of our viewers are going to reach out and they might have questions. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed either, so feel free to. They're expecting to reach out and then be told there's a line that you need to wait in. So I just want to make sure that you're comfortable. I would love to have you back on the podcast for future episodes because I do want to get into the ET interdimensional UFO stuff. That's one thing, and then there's so many other episodes we can go into. But I really appreciate you coming on, and I guess what's your last message for the people of Mexico and the people of the United States regarding Mexico's life path, where Mexico is, and what we could expect as Americans, but also what Mexicans can expect of their own country in the future.
Well, I love Mexico.
And I felt such a sense of pride, and I was so moved that
I went crazy.
I'm sorry, you went crazy? I went crazy.
I'm always rooting for Mexico, grandma, grandparents, tatarabuelos, so my heart will always belong to Mexico. Los lleva bien cerca el corazón. And of course, I want the best for us too. But when we are operating on a low level or it's governed, it's going to be difficult unless the person who's governing here learns to operate on a higher level. There's really not much we can do. But I would not fuck around with Mexico, okay? Because they're in their snake year, and Claudia is a tiger. They're feisty. They like to fight. Well, I wouldn't say they like to fight, but they're very courageous, and they stand on business. They're not afraid to stand up. And I just see great things coming from Mexico. Again, I know it doesn't seem like it with all these deportations and stuff, and my heart goes out to everyone. But believe me, I promise you, this is just the growing pains. You guys are going to thrive, and I'm just so excited for them. So excited and happy for them.
I love that. I love that message. And thank you. I love how positive you are and how diplomatic you are. As me, I just think that we have a joker and someone who is just honestly a buffoon. And it's really insulting to our intelligence that we have someone like that in the White House. And
I didn't know if I was allowed to talk freely.
hey, I respect that. And unlike him, I love free speech. So that's my 2 cents on that. And it just goes to show though how professional for sure and how personable you are, but also how seriously you take all this. And that's what convinces me, on top of speaking with you and the fact that everything makes sense that you're saying, it convinces me that you really do want the best for people and that there's no bad bone in your body.
I really appreciate it, and that's such a huge compliment because I love her. And by the way, I predicted she was going to win, okay? Before that happened, which I have it on my Instagram. I said, I predict the next president that Mexico has will be a woman, and we'll have one before we do. And at the time, like Hillary and Kamala. So just saying, I've been rooting for her all this time. And we didn't even get into that you're a dog.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, you are born in the dog year. So last year was the dragon year, which is your enemy. So correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe it was not the best year for you.
You have no idea. It was hard. It was hard. For a lot of things I did. A lot of self-inflicted things, but it was hard.
It's that negative energy. People don't do well in their enemy sign. Again, you could still have a little wins here and there, but there will be like repercussions or something's just not going to work out the way you wanted it to work out. But dogs, good traits, they're very loyal. So we got that. You're very loyal to, I'm sure, whoever you consider you owe that loyalty. But they can be that, the little rough around the edges too, when upset or something happens. With good reason. My son, one of my sons, my 19-year-old, he's a dog. So last year, yeah, it wasn't that great for him either. And but now it's my other son coming up the road. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm scared. I'm scared.
See, I feel like you having such a good understanding of numerology, it's almost like you're aware of things before they happen and you're just expecting them. So you're kind of like, okay, next year or in 2027, oh my gosh, that's going to be hard. I'm just mentally preparing right now.
Oh my God, yes. Like my older son was trying to convince my younger to be into sports. We're not a sports family. I mean, we're like, artistic kind of family. And I was like, hell no, especially next year, you insane. Are you bloody insane? We're not doing that. He's not going to get in any damn sports. I'm driving him every day to school. In fact, I'm picking your little ass up early, bro. Okay, I don't care if I embarrass you with your little homitos. Te voy a levantar. Like that's yeah. I'm not taking no damn chances. But and again, even when you are in your year, no year is perfect. I had my year in 2021 because I'm an ox, and I had really great, amazing experiences. I was traveling a lot, doing a lot of my paranormal work, and I loved it. And I felt things were going great. And then I had, a few things that just kind of blindsided me. Well, I kind of expected them, but still, and that kind of, didn't put me in the best of place. But that's what I'm saying. New Year's perfect, but aprovecha cuando estás en tu energy, because that's the time you hit it hard, so you can make a name for yourself if that's what you want, or whatever goals you have for yourself, especially career wise. That's when you do it. And for those again who want to have children, if you're planning it, do it in your sign. Either your sign is the best, but if not, your friends, because we all have two friends and one enemy. So even though it's not your year, if it's one of your friends' year, you still have like a good year. But when it's your enemy, is like, oh, definitely not. That's a time to be very vigilant and be very careful.
And that would make sense why people who are listening to this, it would make sense to reach out to someone like you, because you could provide that insight that already exists, but you're kind of just gathering that insight and letting them know these little hacks, they're not hacks, they're more so kind of more clear understandings of how to navigate the world, and when is the best time to do something. Because if we can prevent negativity, if we can prevent kind of things that really get us down, because we know that it might not be our year, or because we know that this specific car, for example, might not be the best fit for us, because the numerology of that just it doesn't work with us. And I feel like it could save people money, it can save people heartache, headaches, and just make life smoother. So that's why I would encourage people to reach out to you. But there's a big obstacle, and this will be the last question I ask you. um, what's your message to people? Somos mexicanos. Tenemos
Mm.
una historia de, really deeply, oh, we don't do black magic. We don't do, I say black magic as in quotes, right? We don't do this stuff because es del diablo, es el enemigo. And what's your message to people who are very, very in that energy, where they're very resistant to these types of techniques to understand reality?
Well, I want to start off with this. We're kind of hypocritical in that sense because, for instance, one of my grandmothers, she was very Catholic, but then she would go get her cards read. You know what I mean? Or go with a curandedo. So, I mean, like, no mames.
Or
You know
they
what I'm
watch like
saying?
Walter Mercado or something.
Oh, he is in my head. He's my fairy godfather. The ultimate Pisces. I'm obsessed. I love him so much. Exactly. I got the damn chancla. You better cállate porque doy ay, grandma, grandpa. So you know what I'm saying? So and it's not evil. It's what you choose to do with it. Like you've heard that saying, ojalá que te castigue Dios, for those who believe in God. Does that mean God's evil? For those who believe, no, it's like you're wishing, you're using that, I hope God punishes you for whatever it is. So will that make God evil? No, it's your intent. Just like with any type of magic, magic or spirituality or manifesting, there's good intent and bad intent. Do you know what I mean? Even you do it subconsciously, or I mean, subconsciously, you kind of put spells on people. Like, say, for instance, you're not really going to a witch doctor or brujeria, but maybe someone who you dislike, you're like, ojalá que se muera, or whatever. You are putting that energy out there, whether you know this or not. And I would encourage people to be more open to spirituality. Not everything is evil. It really, really isn't. Again, it's what you choose to do. And even then, I mean, look, an eye for eye makes the world go blind. But I'm not gonna lie to you. Some some people, you know what I'm saying? that's, all, that's all I'm gonna say.
They really test like the good energy that you're supposed to embody. It's
I've
all
had my
perspective.
moments. I've had my moments. Trust.
Yeah, yeah. And even those moments, are lessons that God, the universe, source,
Mhm,
whatever you want to call, whatever you bow down to, or venerate or worship, whatever.
mhm,
They're all tests to see where you are and how you're developing as a soul, as a person. Because if it's true, if any of this crazy weird stuff that we're seeing in the world is true, then that means that each person alive is more powerful than we think, because we might be able to quite literally manifest things based on
yeah.
where we are spiritually. And of course, we're going to manifest war and racism, homophobia, hatred, all these things,
Mhm,
if that's where our energy is. But maybe
yeah.
this chaos that we're seeing is like like a type of wake up call to the world, saying that the world could change in a generation, maybe a couple
Mhm.
decades, if you start working on yourself to start manifesting positives. And if
Yeah.
you multiply that by how many people, 9 billion people on the planet,
Yeah.
then you could eventually get to a point where vibe being so high that seeing beings and things that
Mhm.
we would have thought were mythical and crazy are would become our everyday lives. It would just be a
Yeah.
matter of like, I'm walking to Subway and then, oh look, it's Jeff the ET from Bl- planet X95,
Yeah.
and there's a little dragon flying around and stuff. And I know I'm using very extreme examples, but why is that so hard to believe, right? I mean, I never
Yeah.
thought we'd be here where we have who we have in the White House, possible World War III starting,
Yeah.
declassification of aliens and UFOs, and these weird things that are going on, and it makes me wonder what's real anymore. Like what is real, and maybe things like numerology can help us understand.
We are definitely at a turning point. Like I told you earlier, we are on uh, the year's the nine energy. This is like, closing time. There has to be some sort of like disruption to bring down everything that's kind of corrupt and is no longer working so we can rebuild on more solid foundation as a collective. And this is what I'm sorry, this is what Pluto in Aquarius is doing, which I've also talked about. So Pluto in Aquarius was in and out of Aquarius last year. It's going to be here for the next 20 years. Okay. So Pluto's a planet of death, rebirth, and transformation. It's here to shake up anything that's inauthentic, corrupt, disingenuous. In Aquarius, I mean, they're the rebel, the zodiac sign. They don't do well with the government. So that's why I said there was going to be a lot of protesting this year. And I mean, we had like the biggest protestings in history. A lot of people standing up to the government, trying to take back control of their rights, basically a civil war. So with all that, that energy, we're bringing down, and also the fact that we're on a nine energy, all that is trying to bring down all that shit that, is bad so we can rebuild it. And of course, like the saying goes, it gets worse before it gets better.
That's powerful. Wow. Wow. This was such an interesting conversation, and we're gonna have you back 100%. And
Yay.
I have to say, this is one of my most interesting interviews I've done on this podcast. It's a new podcast, but I do want to bring you on in the future because there's so much wisdom and truth that you can give to us. So again, I want to thank you, Sara, for coming on, and I'll reach out to you once this is on our socials on YouTube, and we'll share it, and we'll try to make sure that everyone, as many people as possible at least, can learn and grow, and we could kind of advance. That's the goal, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Grow as a collective. I really appreciate you. And again, my love to Mexico and your family too. Thank you so much for having me. And I fully support you and your podcast. I'd love to
Thank
be on
you.
again.
Thank you. You as well. We'll cross post. I'll make sure that everyone is able to see your content as well. And aquí tienes tu casa siempre. So and
Thank you so
if you're ever in
much.
California, let me know.
Oh, I want to go. I want to go. And again, by the way, really quick, California was in its enemy year last year. Okay. So this is why a
Ah,
bunch of stuff, and I had predicted there was going to be like mudslides and all that, the water and all that stuff that happened. And with the fire, when that happened, the beginning of January, we were still technically in their enemy sign because we didn't jump into the snake year till I believe the 29th of January, something like that. So all that happened in the enemy year of California.
wow.
See how that works?
Oh my God.
Oh,
That's
by the way, really quick, just want to throw this out there, which I did talk about that. Ohio, Ponte Truch, because they are in their enemy year. So I said this literally right after I posted it. I was like, there could be something to do with possibly earthquakes. I just kind of threw it out there. There could be stuff that happens. Literally, we had like 2 earthquakes, and like, what the heck? Those type of things. So whenever a state is in their enemy year, I do expect there to be some sort of weather issue at least, or things that are going to happen. I said this and I made a post about this at the beginning of the year. I said the first 3 months there's going to be a lot of plane accidents. Boom, there's been a bunch of stuff that happened, unfortunately. Really quick too, just a heads up for people before I let you go. Jupiter just entered Cancer, okay, on the 9th, I believe. Now, yes, Jupiter. I'm sorry. Jupiter is a planet of expansion and growth. It could bring in a good luck, abundance. It could bring in a lot of good things. Again, you're vibrating at a high level. Cancer represents the moon, but even though Cancer represents the moon, it's still a water sign. So I expect a lot of water, whether this is out of nowhere floods or something to do with water, lots of rain. I really hope not a tsunami somewhere or something, because it's going to be in Jupiter from uh, um, June of this year till June of next year. So I do expect some sort of issues with water. I will say that. I mean, we can really go into that because that's a whole nother thing for each sign and depends on what house they are. But anyways, just I want to throw that little warning out there just so people know.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that too, because if you can read into what we could possibly expect, then again, that's just another way that we can prepare and better plan for these things. So if you're
Oh
open to it,
God.
I'd love to.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, I can't swim, damn it.
You might have to learn.
Okay, thank you.